You all stood up there and said you will not allow Trump to come in here and get these illegals. Yeah, you can smile. We're in $1 billion deficit. And you spent half of our money, half of that on illegals. You campaigned and doubled down that you would not raise property taxes.
I won't raise your property taxes.
You wanted to raise our taxes $300 million. They shut it down. Now we back here for $150 million. Okay. See, this is what we asking now. Since you want to crash out, some of y'all say y'all willing to go to jail for it. Trump, Tom Homan, make an example out this Negro right here first. Please come here first.
The mayor of Chicago just got absolutely destroyed on live television. And what happened next will leave you speechless. Brandon Johnson thought he could lie his way through another softball interview. But this time, even the liberal media wasn't buying his ridiculous claims about fixing Chicago's crime crisis. His own constituents are now publicly begging federal authorities to arrest him first. And the footage is going viral for all the wrong reasons. Hit that subscribe button right now because you need to see how badly this backfired. The media interview that destroyed Johnson's career. Brandon Johnson walked into what he thought would be a routine MSNBC appearance, but instead delivered one of the most cringe-worthy performances in political history. The mayor claimed Chicago's crime was down 32%, while the city just recorded its highest carjacking rate in over a decade, with 1,800 incidents in 2024 alone. Host Joy Reid actually fact-checked him in real time, something that never happens to Democratic mayors on that network. Johnson's face went completely blank when confronted with FBI crime statistics showing violent crime increased 15% under his administration.
Developing story today, Chicago's budget problems, hate to say it, could be worse than we previously thought.
And that is according to a worst-case scenario released this afternoon by the Mayor's Office of Management and Budget. What could this mean for you? Our Charlie Wojciechowski joining us now in studio to sort out what could happen next. Charlie.
Well, Allison, when the COVID relief funds ran out, a lot of city budgets were thrown into turmoil. Chicago was no different. Now it's looking at how big that gap is and what the city needs to do about it.
Chicago budget officials sounding the alarm this morning in a briefing for reporters that Chicago is facing a $1 billion budget gap that could grow if new sources of revenue can't be found.
We anticipate a $1.15 billion gap in 2026 and slightly increasing through 2028 to $1.23 billion.
The $1 billion budget scandal nobody's talking about. Chicago is hemorrhaging money at a rate that would make even California Democrats blush, with a projected $1.2 billion deficit by 2028 that Johnson has been desperately trying to hide. The city spent over $500 million on migrant services in just 18 months, while closing 12 mental health clinics and laying off 400 city workers. The math is staggering: $2,000 per month per migrant, while the average Chicago senior citizen receives $180 in city services. Internal budget documents show Johnson diverted funds from police overtime and infrastructure repairs to pay for migrant housing at luxury hotels. Property owners are fleeing the city so fast that commercial real estate values dropped 23% in 2024, creating an even bigger revenue hole. Democratic leaders are secretly turning against Johnson. Governor J.B. Pritzker hasn't appeared at a single public event with Johnson in over 4 months, a deliberate political distancing that insiders say signals panic within Illinois Democratic circles. 3 Chicago aldermen who previously supported Johnson have now publicly called for federal intervention, something unthinkable just 6 months ago. Internal polling shows Johnson's approval rating among black voters, his core base, has collapsed from 67% to 31% since taking office. The Democratic National Committee quietly removed Johnson from their list of rising stars and canceled his speaking engagement at their winter fundraising events. Even longtime Democratic donors are jumping ship, with major contributors pulling $8 million in pledged campaign funds for 2027.
What we're doing in Chicago is working. I've made critical investments in employment, particularly our young people. Over 31,119 young people had summer jobs, a 50% increase since I've taken office. I've expanded mental and behavioral health care services. We're on pace to build 10,000 affordable units by the end of my first term. And we've revamped our entire detectives bureau so that we can actually hold people accountable. And as a result of those investments, homicides are down 32%, shooting victims are down nearly 40%, robberies are down nearly 35%, vehicular carjackings are down almost 50%. There is more work to do. Don't misunderstand me. But what I know what works is that when you invest in people, and particularly communities that have been historically locked out of opportunities, that's how we build safe and affordable communities, not just across Chicago, but across America.
Johnson's delusional response to his own party's revolt. When confronted about his plummeting support, Johnson actually blamed white supremacist infiltration of the Democratic Party for his political isolation, a statement so bizarre that even progressive activists called it unhinged. He held a press conference where he claimed his policies were being sabotaged by corporate interests working with federal agents to undermine his administration. Johnson spent $75,000 in taxpayer money on a consultant to help him craft messaging about why other Democrats are secretly racist for opposing his sanctuary city policies. His paranoid behavior has gotten so extreme that he now requires city employees to sign loyalty pledges before attending meetings with him. The executive order that could land Johnson in federal prison. Johnson signed Executive Order 2025-1, directing all Chicago city employees to actively obstruct federal immigration enforcement, a move that legal experts say could constitute felony charges under federal obstruction statutes. The order goes far beyond typical sanctuary city policies by requiring police officers to physically block ICE agents from accessing city property and threatening termination for any employee who cooperates with federal authorities. Constitutional law professor Jonathan Turley called it the most legally reckless document ever signed by a major city mayor. The order allocates $3 million for a deportation defense fund to pay legal fees for illegal immigrants fighting removal proceedings. Most shocking of all, Johnson directed Chicago public schools to refuse compliance with federal background check requirements for employees, potentially putting children at risk.
His solution will be to rely on corporations or what he calls the ultra-rich to pay more.
The ultimate goal is to challenge those with means to contribute more to the vitality of our city.
Among the options still on the table, reinstating the $4 a month head tax on large employers, taxing digital advertising revenue, and a city-level corporate income tax.
Johnson's Bring It On challenge that crossed every line. At a heated press conference, Johnson directly challenged President Trump, saying, "If you want to play war games with Chicago, bring it on, because we'll show you what resistance really looks like." He then compared federal immigration enforcement to Nazi tactics and urged Chicago residents to physically resist any federal operations in their neighborhoods. Johnson called ICE agents occupying forces and suggested that Chicagoans should treat them as enemy combatants, threatening their community. The mayor actually encouraged citizens to form neighborhood defense committees to confront federal agents, language that counterterrorism experts say crosses into incitement territory. The secret meeting that proves Johnson has lost his mind. Leaked audio reveals Johnson held a private meeting with radical activist groups where he discussed martyrdom and being the first mayor willing to go to jail for the cause. In the recording, Johnson can be heard saying he'd rather see Chicago burn to the ground than comply with Trump's immigration policies. He allegedly asked activists to help him identify federal agents operating in the city so he could have them dealt with through legal harassment campaigns. Johnson discussed creating a war room to coordinate resistance activities and promised to use city resources to fund anti-government protests. Most disturbing of all, Johnson talked about wanting to become a symbol of resistance that other Democratic mayors would follow.
For President Trump's looming immigration crackdown, the city is taking new actions to push back against it. Earlier today, Mayor Brandon Johnson signed an executive order laying out his plan to resist the administration's efforts to step up immigration enforcement in the city, which could begin in the coming days.
I do not take this executive action lightly. I would have preferred to work in a more collaborative approach, but unfortunately, we do not have the luxury of time. We have received credible reports that we have days, not weeks, before our city sees some type of militarized activity by the federal government.
Chicago residents are living through a nightmare, with a mayor who's chosen illegal aliens over his own people. And innocent families are paying the price with their safety and their wallets. This isn't just about one corrupt politician anymore. It's about whether we're going to let radical Democrats destroy our cities while they play political games with American lives. If this story made you as angry as it should, smash that subscribe button and share this video everywhere, because the mainstream media won't tell you the truth about what's really happening in our country,